Good morning, afternoon, evening. Delete as appropriate. This is see you next time, and welcome to r/am I terribly awful. And yes, I've self-censored the name to appease those lovely YouTube wonderful people. I love this subreddit as it allows us to unleash that inner judgment we normally have to hold back in polite society. And it lets me fool around with my voice, innit? To kick things off, here's one from user SavingsPattern3614. Am I terribly awful for not taking down a video that was a gift from my best man? I have a sister that's 6 years older than me. My parents for years cancelled on me last minute because of my sister. I have a basketball game. Oh, sorry, sister doesn't feel like going out. I am graduating. Oh, sorry, sister had a bad day at work. They have missed both major and smaller events in my life because of her meltdowns. I met the love of my life and we decided to tie the knot. From the beginning, I told my parents how I am worried my sister will ruin another special moment in my life. My mum told me over and over again that it would not happen. The day of my wedding, I received a voicemail from my mum saying they couldn't come because my sister's dog was sick and she was upset. I was hurt. My best man, however, is a jokester. He took my phone, then went to my fiancée and asked if he could post a video of our wedding on social media as a gift. She loved his idea. I had no idea about it until I came home. Our honeymoon was at a lakeside cabin, no cell service. The post caption was, "My best friend. He is an amazing person, even if his parents never showed up for him." The video was still pictures of us, next to her parents, me on the dance floor, cutting the cake, where you would normally see both parents in wedding pictures. The sound behind the video was my mum's voicemail explaining how they couldn't come because my sister's dog was sick. I came home a week later to hundreds of messages. Family members from both sides insisting I take it down. I was told my sister hasn't stopped crying and my mum is refusing to leave the house. I may be terribly awful here. I didn't take it down when I got my messages. I didn't call my family back right away. I waited until my vacation time was over at work and enjoyed my time with my wife in our new home before I contacted anyone. My dad told me to take down the video. It was just a bad night for them. That they will make it up to me and my wife for not coming. My reply was exactly how do you plan to make up for my wedding? It's a once in a lifetime thing, and you chose to ignore my feelings on the whole matter. Then he just repeated that he will make it up to me. I told him I would take down the video only when he had made up for missing my wedding. Flustered, we both hung up the phone before we both said things we shouldn't have. Am I terribly awful here? I could have just taken down the video. Wow. This seems like such a bizarre situation. The sister throws out these random meltdowns any time her little brother has a significant life event, seemingly to ensure that he has no familial support. By the sounds of it, she's living at home with their parents, while her OP is away living his life. So this is what, jealousy? She's upset because her little brother is progressing in his own life. Or is it that she's unwell? There's nothing mentioned about his sister's health, mental health or otherwise, so, we can only assume she doesn't have these sorts of issues. And in the absence of these medical issues, it sounds like she's a straight-up narcissist. But what's even more confusing is that the parents just accept it blindly. Oh well, if you're upset that you've had a bad day at work because your dog is sick, then obviously we, as a family, can't go and be with our son, your brother, at his graduation, or his actual goddamn wedding. Look, in this particular case, I wholeheartedly get that dogs are family. It might feel like leaving a sick child at home. But surely the sister could have stayed home with Dr. Caboodle, the fabulous Labradoodle. I'm assuming that's its name, because why wouldn't it be? The parents could still come and attend one of the most important days in their son's life. I feel like there's some major information we're not privy to, but on the basis of what is provided, the sister is a terrible person for constantly making up a load of old arse to avoid celebrating milestones with her brother. And the parents are just awful for letting her do it without any sort of fight or even any kind of reasonable and rational compromise. So, taking this all on board, I've got to say that the parents and sister all are about 3/4 butt nugget. Thus, this is my decree, 75% assholery. Judgment is passed. And don't it feel warm and squishy inside? This one's from Throwaway 61565. Am I terribly awful for literally showing my dad how he behaves every day when he gets home from work? I'm a 16-year-old girl, and my 46-year-old father is a breadwinner, while mum is a stay-at-home mum. She handles everything around the house, like cooking, mopping, washing, laundry. I'm the oldest, and I try to help, but really there's only so much I can do, while my dad just gets home at the end of the day and literally complains about everything, like how the carpet isn't clean or how the food is cold. As a result, I'd have to listen to a huge argument daily between him and mum. It's exhausting, but honestly, I think my dad is in the wrong here. I tried talking to him to get him to see how his behaviour is, but to no avail. So what I did was pick a day off for him and pretend to act like him. I put together an outfit that looked like a suit and put black tape over my lips to look like a moustache. At 6 p.m, I went inside the house, shouted, "I'm home!" then sat next to him in the living room and started kicking my shoes while complaining about the state of the house at the top of my lungs. He glanced at me confused, asking what I was doing. I ignored him, then started yelling about the carpet being dirty, shower not ready, the kids needing to be quiet and so on. He kept staring, while mum and my siblings laughed. My youngest brother kept pointing towards me saying, "This is Daddy!" I then proceeded to yell about dinner, then berated my mum for not preparing it before time. My dad stopped me, and in a serious tone asked what I was doing. I turned to him and said, "What? Can't a man effing rest after working long hours?" in the most macho voice I could muster. My dad got the hint because this was a common phrase he uses daily. He went quiet and avoided looking at me. I stopped the act and told him I was trying to show him what he's like every day when he comes home from work. He said nothing, just went outside and refused to speak to me. Later, he went on about how I mocked and invalidated him, that he does work hard, and me doing this was disrespectful and invalidating. Mum said it was funny, but also thought I hurt my dad's feelings, and I could have got the message across some other way instead. Am I terribly awful? Well, that was pretty funny. I absolutely get the intent here, and I think this is actually a nice way of getting the point across without it being too mean. And who knows, perhaps OP has a future in comedy skits. Your dad coming home and basically being a dick to everyone is like something from an 80s sitcom, so I reckon it's entirely appropriate to respond to it in the same style. Sure, you could have done it differently, but it sounds like you tried that already and the message didn't land, so you decided to up the ante a little. And yeah, you hurt your dad's feelings, but people don't change without at least a little pain. It's good for him to know that this is how he comes across. I suspect that in a couple of days you'll all be laughing about it, or at least I hope so. This might even be a strong enough trigger for him to actually change his behaviour before his family really start to hate him. Thus, this is my decree. 10% OP assholery. I think Dad is currently running about 40% dump cove,
but that could improve if he stops being such a wang when he gets home.
This one's from user Injured and Alone. Am I terribly awful for being upset my wife didn't stay in the hospital with me? So, I, a 35-year-old male, was in a motorcycle accident earlier this week. My wife, 35 female, has 3 kids from a previous marriage, a 17-year-old girl and 2 boys 10 and 5, and we have a 1-year-old together. I had a collapsed lung and had a chest tube put in, a broken leg and arm and torn ligaments in my knee. I've been in the hospital since Monday. She came out on the day of my accident and stayed until about 4 a.m. Was back that same morning, but has gone home each night. Yesterday, she only stayed until about 1 p.m. to prepare the house for the hurricane and didn't come at all today because the weather wasn't great, and she said she didn't want to leave the kids. I told her I was upset that I basically went through everything alone, that I would have done anything to be with her. She told me she's been there as much as possible, and it's not fair to dump all the kids on her daughter, especially since I'll need a lot of help when I get home, and her daughter will need to help with the kids when she works. I told her marriage means through thick and thin, and I feel abandoned. Now I'm getting one-word answers from her. Am I terribly awful for feeling like an afterthought? I mean, yes, you are. I mean, the comments are reaming this guy out, and I'm not entirely with them on that. Now, don't get me wrong. In this instance, he's like 70% guff cave. But we've also got to remember he's likely in massive pain and emotional trauma because he very nearly died. Regardless of your feelings on the likelihood of motorbike accidents and whether or not a parent of a 1-year-old is someone who should make a hobby of launching themselves at concrete, he's in a bad way. And almost certainly his thinking is wildly out of kilter and just wants some attention from his wife. I suspect he'll look back on this post as one of those cringy memories that surface in the dark. Because yeah, complaining that your wife isn't at your beck and call when she's trying to deal with a teenager, 2 young kids, a 1-year-old, and a hurricane is painfully entitled. Thus, my decree is 7 out of 10 for self-indulgent assholery. And the balance is just space for his hopefully temporarily morphine-addled inflated ego. So, you've made it to the end of my very first video. Thank you so much. I'm going to encourage you to do all the things. Like, comment, subscribe. Hum gently to yourself. Fist. Lick strangers in the street. Touch them in a practiced and professional manner. Become incandescent with rage at the decay of all that's good in the world. Click the little bell icon. Tell me what you did like. Tell me what you didn't. All by fiddling with your keyboard or your phone, using letters and language to convert the thoughts in your head into short portions of meaning that others can understand. You are a goddamn miracle. And remember, most importantly, what happens on the internet stays on the internet.
Forever and ever and ever.
See you next time.